Open Project is a very easy to learn program to plan projects and to execute them and then monitor them. And now we're going to cover the first part of its function, which is just introducing the tasks that we want to plan. Just as we open Project, we get this sort of window in here. We can choose between creating a new project or opening an existing one. So we start with creating a new project, and we get the possibility of giving it a name, just like, project number 1 to be original, right? And so we get the first splash screen of Open Project. Look, the philosophy of Open Project is very easy. Actually, the idea is that we can give them lots of information about my project in this area in here, and on the other hand, I get new information that I didn't have before. And this information that I get from Open Project, be it graphical kind of diagrams or statistics about my tasks and project and the costs, all this information allows me to decide things and to improve my plans and to make it safer and more precise, right? So the idea is very simple. First of all, I can enter the tasks in this part here in the left side of the screen. So I will start with a very simple example, just like task number 1 and task number 2, maybe task number 3, right? This is what we get. Just right next to them, we get the duration of the task. This means the amount of time that we need to complete them. Not the amount of work that it will take, but the amount of days or months or weeks or hours that I need to make it completely. So in this case, I'm going to use 1 week in Spanish, 1 una semana. Or I can use days. I can use like 7 days, 7D. Notice that it's not the same to enter 1 week than 7 days. 1 week is a 1 working week, where 7 days is like 5 days plus 2 more days of work. This causes this difference in here. And I can, of course, enter, I don't know, hours, for instance, 3 hours, right? Very short task, like the third one we have here. Right, this is the first part, introducing the task that we have. But actually, I know more things about my task from the very beginning, because as you probably know, not all the tasks in my project start at the same time, at the very beginning of my project, and they go along in parallel all along the process and the project. So actually what happens is that some of the tasks cannot be done until others have finished. I cannot hang some pictures on the wall before that I have painted this wall. So I have to first paint the walls and then I hang the pictures on the wall. So this would be sort of the example of task number 1 and task number 2. Task number 2 cannot be done, cannot be started until task number 1 has been completely finished. So to do that, to tell this to Open Project, what I have to do is to use some other columns other than the ones that I have here. As you may see, I have 3.5 here, but I can try to open it up a little bit or just move all along here so I can get new columns. Actually, the column that I'm looking for is this one in here. It's called predecessors, meaning all the tasks that should be completed in order to allow me to start the one I'm in. So if task number 2 cannot be started until task number 1 has been completed, the only thing that I have to do in the predecessors column of task number 2, I enter number 1, which is actually not the name of the task, but the name or the number of order that it has. So task number 1 is going to be the predecessor, and this is what it causes. Task number 2 has been moved forward on my calendar because it cannot be started until task number 1 has completely been finished, right? And then we get task number 3, which can also have number 1, or maybe we can have number 2, so it can be done at the end. It depends on my project and the kind of tasks that we have. This is not the only thing that we can introduce here in this Open Project when it comes to introduce information about my tasks. Actually, I can introduce more things, such as the resources. To enter the resources, we have to do it in a two-step process. First step of the process is to tell OpenProject how many resources do I have, which are the resources that I have at my disposal if I need them. And the second step is going to be assign those resources to the tasks. So let's start with the first step. If we go to this left side, left border of OpenProject, we get here on this fifth icon on the left, on this third icon on the left, we get this resources icon. If we go there, we get this table, and here is where we add all the resources that we have available. And we can enter them like using the names of them, maybe. And even if I go a little bit on the right, you will see that we get more columns, interesting columns, such as this one, for instance. Maximum units. What does this percentage mean? It means that this is the amount of availability that I have from this particular resource in my project. Meaning that if it's 100% availability, it means that this person dedicates his whole working time every day to my project. On the other hand, if he or she can only be just half time, like 50%, I can say it in here, right? I could change it. In any case, I leave it just like that. And then comes the costs, about how many euros or dollars or whatever the currency we may use does it cost to use a particular resource per hour. Since we're talking about people, we account it by hours of work. So this is where we can say something like, okay, this is like 60 euros per hour. And the overwork time, if we have overwork, it's going to be like 100 euros per hour. This is the idea. So now, every time that this particular resource has been used in one task, each and every hour of work is going to cost us 60 euros each. Of course, I can get more resources, and I can use them freely. I can have as many as I want. So in this case, I'm going to enter a second resource, which is going to help us in this project. It's going to be a little bit more expensive because actually is a better professional. And so finally, we have all the resources that are available introduced. Now comes the second step of the resources process. We go back to where we were before. This is the first icon on the left. It's called the Gantt chart. And in this Gantt chart, you remember this, right? In this Gantt chart, this is the time to say who are we needing to complete each and every one of these tasks. So, for instance, let's go to task number 1. If I go to the right, again, to discover the new columns that I have, the last one is called name of the resources. And here is what I can say, okay, to do this one, I need this person in here. Done. Assigned. So now this task is going to be done by this resource in here. And what about the second one? Well, actually the second one is going to be done by two people at the same time because we need both experts in here. We need Mark, but we need also Noemi. So both of them are assigned and we get this job done. And finally, for the last one, I assign this other professional too. So now I have the resources assigned with all the tasks in it. Now comes the funny part of it all, the interesting part of OpenProject, which is taking information out of that. How can I take information out of that? Well, it's going to be interesting to find the ways of getting information, but we're going to leave this for a second tutorial. Right now, what we've seen is that we can easily introduce the tasks right here on the Gantt chart on the left, with the duration, with the predecessor that will set the order, and finally the resources. But remember that first of all, for the resources, we have to go through this third icon on the left, introduce them with all its information, and then go back here to assign them properly to this last column on the right. We see us right in a few minutes in the second tutorial about getting information out of OpenProject.